Welcome to Montreal Rocks. And we're here in our studio, our home studio, with the band Little Misty. Now, I had to write this down because there's so many accomplishments that the both members, Kathryn and François, have that I had to list them. So we'll start with you, Kathryn. Now, you've worked with Gregory Charles, the Beach Boys, Styx, Maddie May, Sarah McLachlan, Lionel Richie, and even worked with the Nintendo DS platform.
Yeah, so mainly I worked with Gregory Charles and I collaborated on different shows with all of those artists that you named. But yeah, I did do like the theme song for a Nintendo DS game.
Really?
Yeah.
See, we're
You
finding out
didn't know
new
that
stuff.
like 10 years ago.
I think he told me that. I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
François, you're a regular at the Jazz Festival, a favorite actually. At one time, you were part
Say
of
that,
the
but-
John Jacob Magistry. You're often in a duo with Jérôme Beaulieu.
Yeah. we do
And you
stuff.
basically collaborate with a lot of Montreal musicians,
Yeah.
specifically in jazz and folk.
Yeah. I've been a musician full time for like almost 10 years now. So yeah, you've seen me play with a lot of different people.
Now, if I were to explain the band Little Misty, this is my definition of your band. Imagine if Tom Waits' band produced a Cirque du Soleil soundtrack in the southern Appalachian Mountains.
wow.
I like that.
That's awesome.
Because I was listening to the new album and I got that vibe of like, this is something that Tom Waits would do. It just had these arrangements that were so cool. It has that bluegrass, which originates from the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah.
And it basically also is cinematic, almost like a Cirque du Soleil. And that kind of brings us back to you, Kathryn.
Yeah.
You kind of were the lead in Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, so 13, 14 years old, I toured with the Cirque on one of their shows called Kidam. I was a lead singer and le personnage central, finally, of that production. So as a kid.
What was your most memorable memory of that tour? That was quite something for someone in your age to be in that.
Yeah, for sure. I think just being on stage and like I have this one moment when I'm like I opened the show and like there's this just light that's on me and I'm just walking on the stage alone and it's like just this memory that's really strong in my when I think back of the show.
And you did it like 100 times.
More than that. And just that feeling of energy of there over 2,000 people and I'm just like alone on that stage and I think every time I had that adrenaline rush that came with that moment and just singing, I think that a lot of the songs that we write, for sure tainted a little bit of that experience for my part.
What's interesting is to me is I don't know, I've never been on stage as a singer, but I would assume that you give off a lot of energy. You give your energy into your music. I can tell that by the album that you guys just did, but you also feed off the crowd, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, for sure. Like whatever we give and when we receive anything from the crowd, it just feeds us so much. So.
But you also started off with both of you have something in common is a lot of education.
Mm-hmm.
You both have you both have bachelors and masters. You did jazz and popular vocal performances.
Yeah.
You did ballet, Juilliard.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty big program right there.
Actually, at Juilliard, there's a music program. So I did study ballet when I was a kid. So you probably looked at my CV, but I studied ballet at the Grand Ballet when I was a kid. But actually, Juilliard was more like a music program that I did in the same years as Kidam, the Cirque show, and I was actually more in percussion at that time. So classical percussion. So I did a boot camp.
And you also studied, pardon me if I don't say it right, but it's still voice training?
still voice
And
training.
you're a trainer?
Yeah, I'm a master trainer. Yeah.
So my last question for you before we move on to
Oh,
François
so I have nothing.
is what did you get from that training? Explain maybe what that training is all about.
Okay,
It's
so
really about
so
control, right?
it's about control. It's about just like mastery of the technical aspects of singing. And since I teach voice, and I always wanted to use the proper terms to explain things, so for me that was the way that I found that was the most beneficial for myself and for when I teach.
Okay.
So it's like just anatomy and physiology and how to control all the different parts of your instrument. And so I find it's really cool, yeah, that I have that knowledge today.
So Francois, one thing that I found was really interesting about you is you won the Grand Prix, the Montreal Grand Prix twice. I don't know, are you McLaren? Are you No.
No, it's a thing that the Jazz Fest organized a few years ago. It was a guitar contest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough.
You won the Grand Prix guitar contest of Montreal.
Yeah.
That's got to be pretty cool.
It was pretty cool at the age that I was like 18 years old, and yeah, I got a free guitar out of it. It was pretty awesome.
Hey, and that led us to where we are today. You also have a bachelor and a master's degree in music composition and performance. What did you get from the training that you started off with? How much of a foundation does that give an artist?
Well, I couldn't say well. It gives you like an understanding of things and more freedom in what you write and when you're going to compose a song. I guess it gives you more freedom to go whenever way you want to go. You're not stuck in like this little thing that you learn like.
Yeah, because I mean, when you're in the types of styles that you guys play, be it bluegrass or be it jazz or even indie folk, there's a lot of experimentation. More so probably with jazz. You probably learn more from playing with other musicians and having that collaboration than you do.
Oh yeah. It's really
else.
important. I really feel it's really like a big part of what we do. It's like feeding off other people's perspective of music.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that you participate, especially in the recording of this album, which is Nowhere Land.
Yeah.
I love the cover, by the way. It's awesome cover.
Cool.
You have to tell me about who took the picture and how that was done.
Oh,
and,
that's another.
And what planet it's on.
That's a funny story.
Let's start there.
Yeah, it's because for the first record, we used old family photos of Kathryn and I for the cover of our first record, and we had an artist like put something together and
Collage.
like a little collage. Mm-hmm. And so for the second record, we were like, oh, it would be fun to do like kind of like a continuity of that concept, and I went through like old photos of my family, and the picture on the cover is actually my mom and my uncle.
Oh, really?
When they were like 4 years old. Yeah, in front of my grandfather's car at the beach.
And there's even those little stars. Are those
those are Photoshopped.
Okay.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's like an old family photo of mine. Yeah.
Cool.
It was taken in like 1954.
Well, speaking of snapshots, if I can use that, the album is basically 10 stories, right? 10 snapshots of different little stories. And it was recorded during, or kind of created during COVID.
Yeah.
So you guys had some time to maybe think. Where did the inspiration come from? Was it something visual, like you saw a photograph and so I'm going to write a story about the windmill, looking at the generations below and their lives? Or was it just pure imagination? Or what was the cement that put it all together?
I would say all those answers are true because some songs are like purely like we imagine like for Something Fishy, for example, I was like imagining like a bad fish, like the boss of the mafia, like going up a river, like kind of like spooky. So that's totally in the realm of dreams. For Windmill, for example, there's the village where my girlfriend grew up. There's like an old windmill on a hill. Mm-hmm. And I remember someone in the family said that, like, oh, it's like it's the old windmill on the hill. And I remember that sentence like stuck.
He gave me that sentence. He said, "Okay, we're gonna write a song, so go." And so for other songs, it's like more like based on like real life, if we want. So Alma is actually more based on the story of my mother. Her name is Alma Louise, and so I sort of imagined a story. Thinking of her growing up and where she is now, and
Yeah.
So some stories are like inspired by real life, and others are
Yeah.
more like
Dust is like the dust storms of the 1930s and the
1940s. Yeah,
40s.
yeah. So that's what that was more like. I read a
Yeah.
book and inspired it.
I guess we're not such prolific writers. So we kind of need to sit down in a room and like, okay, we go, let's work it out. So we need to like find something.
Well, I find that COVID took a lot from us as a people.
Oh yeah.
And it still has effects even to this day, almost PTSD, because once the stress is gone, like when a soldier comes back home, that's when the PTSD kicks in. So now that like most of it is pretty much over, they just declared that it's no longer a state of emergency, things are back to normal. That's when the PTSD kind of kicks in, but it did give us a lot too. It gave us a lot more time. Unfortunately for musicians, it must have been really tough. I mean, they just hit at what you guys do for a living, which is touring and those things. But it gave, for those that survived and made it through with that still being musicians and using that as a core of their business, gave you some time to think about these things and to create. And you guys didn't waste any time. You put that all down, 10 tracks, put the album out.
We released our first record like 2 weeks before everything shut down. And so, I mean, they told us to go reinvent ourselves, so we just wrote another record.
The way I describe your record is it's an auditory road trip visiting 10 different stories, each distinct from the other, but somehow linked by a highway of genres.
Cool.
Because I was listening to it on my way back from a business trip, and they were all different. Some there was a link, but they were all different. Some had that Cirque du Soleil kind of imagery where you just feel like you're in a story. Others had that Tom Waits kind of just cool vibe to it. Others had you had somebody even a little bit more rocky, like more indie rock, and just have that bluegrass background. Some of the instruments that are in there.
Well, I think that's our weakness and our strength to like way too many genres of music, and I mean, some people are more consistent in their project, but we're both, and the musician we play with, we hire are like we're all like a bunch of musicians who play like a lot of different styles, and we have a lot of fun in a lot of different styles. And since this is our main creative project, we can do whatever we want. It's our band, so that's just.
You'll be playing live actually at the Cabaret du Lion d'Or on May 27th.
Yeah.
Is this some place where we're going to see you kind of jump around between the instruments, where you're going to be maybe we'll see you on percussions?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're actually it's a super like special show. So we're normally 5 or 6 on stage, and this show we're adding a banjo and guitar, electric guitar, and the string arranger of the album, Mélanie Belair, and Jérôme on keys. So we're going to be an 8-piece band for this show. So it's pretty
a nice little intimate venue.
Yeah.
Cool. I normally don't ask this because if I could find the answer, I won't ask the question. But where did the name Little Misty come from?
Oh.
Are you just feeling a little misty?
No, it's the name of a lake in Algonquin Park in Ontario, northern Ontario. Yeah, cause I used to be a canoe tripping guide there, and it's just a lake that I was passing by a lot, and whatever. I like the name of it and
we
the
like
place.
Misty. Yeah.
Well, Misty to me seems like an emotional reaction. When you get misty, misty-eyed, it's because you're affected by something and you're reacting. And I think that's why I think of it more. And that's just my approach to the band's name is feeling a little misty is like you're reacting to an emotion, which is good. That's what we want music to do.
Oh, cool.
So maybe I've messed up your answer, but that's how I think.
I love the answer.
Anybody's interpretation is good.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I'm that to me is fascinating.
That's what art is.
Yeah. I mean, you write a song, you have a certain, interpretation. As a listener, we have a completely different one sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah, but that's the main purpose of
because
art.
we
It's
meet.
like you can have different point of views.
See, we meet at the ears, but we kind of diverge wherever the brain goes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to see what the connection was with Bellflower. Like, how did you guys meet? Was it through Bellflower? Because you both.
We actually, well, there's a story. I've told it a few times. I've met François. He was a hired musician at my parents' place for a party. I didn't know him. He was 18 years old. And I sort of saw him perform. And then after that, we met in music school.
Because I was playing with the violin player who played in the Cirque du Soleil show when
And
I
my
was 18 years old. I was
yeah.
playing with another, like, older dude.
Yeah. So that's where we met, and then initially, and then we sort of went to school. Actually, we went to school together at Université de Montréal. Played jazz for a few years. I actually was in Bellflower. So Bellflower, I was a backing vocalist and percussionist for 5-6 years. And then, during those years, François and I started to write music.
Yeah.
Together. So we sort of like started to jam together, and
I think the link is Jérôme.
Yeah.
Jérôme is a for sure a link. Yeah.
So I wanted to play a little game before we end. I'm not a sports guy. I love music, as you can tell. My vinyl collection is,
Cool collection.
is behind the camera, but I like to play something called fantasy rock band.
Ooh.
So I'd like you guys to choose or to create your fantasy rock band. It can't be musicians that you play with, so it has to be completely other people. We need like a lead singer, a guitarist, bassist, drummer at the very least. You might want to add a few other people, but
Okay, I'm gonna start with the lead singer,
Okay, cool. Sure.
Andrew Bird,
Sure. With Brian Blade
on drums.
on drums.
Okay.
Who's gonna play bass?
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
That's the tricky one. But Pino could play the bass.
Pino.
But I don't know. He would be a good fit with Brian Blade though.
if you want this to be an experiment, I guess.
Who could play bass? Let's have Flea on bass. Let's go wild.
Okay.
Let's have Flea on bass with
Flea on bass.
Brian Blade. That's gonna be like a wild ride.
And we want Madison Cunningham on guitar, but she already played with Andrew Bird, but still they'll be a good match.
Okay. Okay. Who else? And Larry Goldings. Yeah.
From
On keyboards.
okay. Okay, so that's an interesting mix. Most knows I don't know too much, so obviously that's cool. I will have to explore. The reason I asked this question.
Let's have Daniel Lanois on like pedal steel as a backup guitar player.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice little extra layer.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask is because it kind of gives me an idea of where your influences lie.
Yeah.
It might be top of mind stuff, but it kind of shows us a little bit about where you get your construction material to your sound.
Very cool.
So the album, it's out now. You can stream it everywhere. To the best place to find information about you guys, is it littlemistyband.com?
Yeah. Little Misty, Google it. And
Yeah, that's our website. Yeah, for sure.
And don't forget, we have to see them live. Lion d'Or, May 27th, 2023.
And some surprise shows at the end of the summer
Yeah.
for the people up north.
Tremblant, maybe? I think I saw that.
There will be
other
Tremblant.
stuff.
But there's something else too.
Okay, well, we look forward to follow the band, and you'll be able to see them live somewhere near you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you so much.